25 years building a career, afraid that walking away would feel like failure. 2 years ago, I did it anyway. Things did not go the way I planned, but I don't feel like a failure. I feel light. I'm in my 50s and I don't have the traditional ties that a lot of people my age have, so I want to be upfront about that. I can plan to spend winters abroad. No one can tell me not to. My style of freedom means I don't have to spend time with people that I don't want to spend time with. There are some things that money can't buy, and it took a while to get there, but to me, that's what this freedom feels like. So taking a few steps back, I worked my way up in my career to a middle-ish position, not quite director level, but it was on the horizon. And even my 20s, I knew I never wanted to go live in London. At the time, I didn't have any family in the UK. I had no sort of emotional safety net. That meant I had to put everything into my career. I told myself I have to work hard. There's no one else to rely on here. So I did. But yeah, London sucked out my energy. The crowds, the commutes. I have a kind of a dodgy leg, and knowing that I have to stand because there's no seats is awful. And, trains are delayed and also really expensive. So none of the commute stuff was, I mean, I'm sure nobody likes commuting, but it was especially soul destroying for me. And then we had COVID come along, which meant it was a respite from all of that. So I ended up moving to a market town, sold my flat, and I got my days back. I feel like I could be outside, enjoy the sunshine when I wanted to, more or less. And then we got the word out that they expected us back in the office 1 day a week. Then it became 2. So, yeah, I just decided I have to move back. Let's just say there was the perfect storm brewing of perimenopause and burnout. Yay. But I was telling myself, let's just see if we can get to the next level, because then we will have achieved something. And I kind of made myself stick to it for a while. I just thought, I don't have 2 or 3 years left mentally to do this, physically, mentally, emotionally, even. So tough decisions had to be made. It was not them, it was me. So I decided that I should resign, and I did. And it sounds crazy. It does, but I did prepare for it. So since the COVID time, I sold my flat, and I spent some time moving around, and eventually I decided just to downsize, and I got rid of a lot of stuff. And I thought I'll just rent furnished places, it'll be fine. I got to the point where I'm spending crazy amounts of money. I was renting a 2-bed flat. It was £1,800 a month, just me and my cat. And I'm like, this is crazy. So, glossing over a few bits and bobs, but I got to the point where I'm like, I'm just gonna house sit full time, and I'm not gonna have those outgoings, and I can save some money. And I funneled money into my pension, which I'm thankful for past me to do that, because it was smart. I've made plenty of not smart financial decisions, but that was one that was smart. And the idea was that I'll explore around London. Maybe some other parts of London are tolerable. But yeah, before I quit my job, I was exploring different places. I didn't have the outgoings. And I also didn't really have things like, well, of course I didn't have utility bills. I also didn't pay for streaming services, because as a house sitter, you're at other people's houses and they pay for the streaming services. So as long as you're not too precious about what you're watching at any moment in time, it works out pretty well. Yeah, so I literally have my phone and my food, things like that. Oh, the other thing is I was mentally prepared for this more frugal lifestyle, shall we say. So growing up, did not have a lot of money. In my early 20s, well, almost all of my 20s, there wasn't a lot of money, even when I was married. So, I mean, the whole frugal lifestyle thing is quite second nature to me. So, in some ways, I'm quite proud of the fact that I can live very frugally, and it's not a big drama. And at the same time, I'm also happy to live a more affluent lifestyle. Just, look, I feel happy I got to experience both. So I do want to be honest, I have some things going for me that other people might not have going for them, which is the fact that I had savings. I also don't have dependents. I have no mortgage. I also have no property, so there's that. So what I expected when I quit my job was I expected I would be euphoric and I'd have this energy. I'd be running around and doing all the things. But what happened was I just felt relief, and I was tired. And my kind of personality now is like I'm the traveling homebody. So when I'm house sitting, I'm home a lot. And that's fine with me. Especially if I'm living a frugal lifestyle. I honestly can't be out touring around everywhere. So freedom for me is not having to work full time. I'm no longer at odds with myself, I'm not exchanging my time and my peace and my mental health for money. My working day, I start work anytime between 8 and 10 in the morning. And depending on my energy, I'll stop at some point and shower and go outside. Maybe if I have any errands, I'll do that. And then if I feel like it, I'll come back and do more work. And if I don't, I don't. I do feel really lucky. I have learned the hard way, though, not to leave the stopping point until like 7 p.m. because even though now it is summertime here in the UK and it's light out, it's actually very, the woods I walk in would be very empty at 7 p.m. and it just feels a little bit creepy. Whereas around, 4 p.m. there's quite a few people out and about, which is nice. Also, my brain never stops working, so there's that too. I always have ideas for things I could be doing. Walking is actually super productive. I did try a co-working space recently because I was feeling really isolated and just thought, well, what would that be like? And honestly, it was packed and there was people all around, mostly working, but some people were having phone conversations, others were having conversations with each other. And, even with noise canceling headphones, it is this overhead of, I don't know, I guess just kind of noise and movement that's quite distracting and quite draining when you're trying to focus. So I didn't think it was that successful from that point of view, but it was really nice to be around other people. So I might go back and just see how it feels when I'm not doing really focused work. I'm also quite a fidgety person, and it feels like when I'm home alone, I can just get up and move around, get a drink, get a snack, anytime I want. And when I'm surrounded by other people, it doesn't feel like I can do that. I feel this pressure to stay put. But yeah, I feel like one of my great freedoms is living alone, and so that's another reason the house sitting works for me. Obviously, there's cats, and they're demanding in their own way, but it's entirely different when it's not humans. So there's 3 things I didn't expect when I gave up my career. The first one is I felt a lot of guilt. I felt guilty that I was letting people down, colleagues and even my old leaders. Also, friends and peers, some of them are in pretty great positions. And one of my friends said I flamed out early, maybe, which, maybe is true. But at the same time, I don't think I could have done anything differently, knowing what I knew at the time. I also think I gave it everything I had. We're conditioned to produce, optimize, work harder, and it's tough. At work, I was supposed to be building relationships with people in London and New York and across different departments and teams, and wow. And that's on top of the other work I was supposed to be doing as well. And it's just, I feel like that does not come naturally to me. And that was a big part of the internal conflict. Do like people, I just don't have the capacity to be doing it all the time. I wish I knew or admitted this to myself when I was younger. I would have chosen an entirely different career, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't have the capacity to be peopling all the time. I didn't expect that I would be like pivoting in a spiral in terms of like my business ideas. So I wasn't giving myself time off to just kick back. Oh, no. Maybe I should have, a little bit, but I didn't. I went straight into, I'm going to build self-employment. The first thing I did is I went headfirst into what we would call the vanity pieces of having a business. So website, logo, all of this stuff. That's not what makes a business viable. So I've done multiple pivots. I've hired multiple coaches, and it was all a good learning experience, but wow, what a waste of time and money. I think building a business or self-employment, it does take some extra time. I probably also didn't stick at any of them long enough, but at the same time, I'm not sure they were right for me either. In the meantime, I am a virtual assistant, and I work through an agency, so that means I pretty much don't have to worry about not getting paid, which is a huge relief. The pay is not great, but 60 hours a month at £15 an hour is still more money than 0 hours at whatever my freelance rate is at my old industry. But yeah, how to not start a small business is probably, that's a whole other video I might make. the last thing I didn't expect was that it was going to be hard to let go of my old identity in my old career. And my LinkedIn kind of reflects my old career. I did apply for full enroll after about a year away from work just to see how I would feel. And to be honest, I didn't get very far in the process. My industry's had a bit of a collapse. There's been a lot of redundancies. And so the competition is pretty fierce. I don't know if there's some ageism at play there. I don't know. So yeah, I think that's not going to happen. There could be some freelance roles that come along. And so that's one of the reasons why I keep my LinkedIn the way it is. You know, as I build up my latest business ideas, I mean, it's going to be a long time before I feel lucrative, and I may never be lucrative, but I'm also enjoying what I do. So now I call myself a full-time house sitter. I have started calling myself a virtual assistant when I meet people. I'm also a writer on Substack, and I have another YouTube channel about family history research, but I'm done with all of the peopling and the socializing up and down the organization. I found out at 50 I'm autistic, and that was on top of learning I was ADHD at 48. The peopling part of my life is in the rearview mirror. So what I would do differently, well, there's a few things. So first of all, could I have used UK employment law to my advantage? Could I have gotten signed off of work for burnout, mental health reasons? I mean, probably, but I didn't honestly think about it at the time. And I don't know, I might have still felt a bit strange about it. And then the next thing is the business decisions and the swift pivoting. I would have probably decided just to sit back. I mean, to be honest, for the first thing I was trying to do, I did spend a long time figuring it out. But I would have spent a lot less time on the vanity stuff and really focus on like what's viable, what is the market. But the main thing I would have done differently is whatever I'm trying to do, I would have liked to do a light version of that before I fully committed to it. So even if that meant volunteering in the same capacity, just to understand if I like the type of work, because what I realized is that a lot of the business ideas I had for myself actually involved quite a lot of peopling. So I think it was just with some time I understood a little bit more about what I actually really, really wanted out of my time. So yeah, I mean, none of it was a waste of time, really. And it was all very much a learning experience, but kind of an expensive one. So like I said, I started this channel just over 2 years ago, and it was originally called Better Neurodivergent Travel. And it's gone through a few iterations. I abandoned this channel for a little while and just dealing with a few things. And yeah, starting the channel, that was a huge step. I'm glad I did. I also got to spend 2 winters in the Southern Hemisphere house sitting, and that was great. 2 UK winters. The problem with house sitting in the wintertime is that you're in strange neighborhoods and it's dark. And some homeowners are kind of particular about the heating. And I wasn't sometimes allowed to put the heat up to the temperature that I'm comfortable at. So I feel like the best thing for everyone is if I maybe don't spend winter in the UK. And when I came back from my last trip, I missed my friends so much. And I did make sure I spend a lot of time with them. But you know, they have elderly parents and they have other responsibilities, and so it is hard to get everyone together. But I did as much as I can. I will do as much as I can while I'm still in the UK. I also know this lifestyle is not forever. There's a lot of practical reasons why it won't be, but I sometimes think, would I go back to a full-time job? And I just think no. Now that the weather is warm here, I think house sitting works out really well, especially for me if I can do some longer sits. Why would I commit to having household bills of, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 pounds a month, and when I can just enjoy other people's homes and other people's casts? And yeah, for me, it's absolutely worth it. This way I have flexibility and I have options. Mainly, I no longer have to deal with people I do not want to deal with. And that is very valuable to me. I can spend winters abroad and no one can tell me not to. I have my freedom. And that's where we're at. If any of this resonated, hit subscribe. I have much more to share.